Hi, and welcome to the Grant Management Seminar Prologue. We thought for those of you that hadn't been able to attend a grant management seminar in the past, it might be great to do a little foundational work before we meet and actually get into the meat of the grant management seminar at the club training assembly. So welcome, I'm Leanne Mobley. I'm your grants management chair for this year. Let's do a little housekeeping here around the Zoom. Again, this will allow us more time on our actual Zoom call on Friday. So if you notice the toolbar at the bottom, if you're not as familiar with this application, we will have all of you muted when you join the call, and as needed, we will unmute you if you have some questions to ask. Most likely, because of the number of people on the call, it's going to be best if you just stop your video, and that'll make your bandwidth better anyway. I do want to call your attention to the participants pane. You'll want to open that up if you want to see who else is on the call. The chat box will become particularly important to us. You can see that marked in the bottom right hand corner. You can send a chat message to everyone on the call for them to see it, or you can select someone and send something privately. That's where Tim and I will be asking you to share your questions with us at the appropriate prompts that we give you. Okay, let's get going here. So I like to start with what is the Rotary Foundation. And this is a slide that's worked well for me doing that. We have Rotary International on the left-hand side and the Rotary Foundation on the right-hand side. And just how do each of these work together, and what functions do they perform for us as members as well as our clubs. So as we probably all know by now, 1905 was when Rotary International was founded. It's led by a president and a board of directors. They help us charter our clubs, promote membership. They set and administer policies for us, and they're going to collect our dues. And on the foundation side, which is the one that we'll be talking about over the next couple of times together, they're run by a board of trustees, and they are responsible for raising funds for the programs of the Rotary Foundation and managing those funds for us. You will become very familiar with the terms and the conditions of grants, and they are the ones that develop and implement those, and they collect our donations for the foundation support. I'm very proud of the Rotary Foundation. You can see here that for the last 11 years it has received a 4-star rating from Charity Navigator, and in fact for 2020 it was named the #1 of the top 10 charities with a 100% score. And really that is having to do with transparency, accountability, how the money is spent and how much of it goes towards overhead. So this is something we can all be very proud of, and I think for those of you who are foundation chairs within your club, I think it's easier to promote donating to the Rotary Foundation when it has these high accolades that they've received. I wanted to show you a little bit about how much money was spent. This is the last reporting year in 2018-19. The foundation funded $87 million in over 1,300 grants, and you can see in the 6 areas of focus, you can see how that was broken down, with most of a large portion of the money, a third of it, going to disease prevention. So let's compare the two different grant types. First one is district grants, and a lot of our clubs in District 5110 are involved in district grants. These are humanitarian projects, and they can also be used for undergraduate scholarships. They're typically short-term in nature, or running a year to completion. They can happen in a non-Rotary country, and in our district we've elected that a district grant can be done internationally, and so it doesn't have to be in a country where there is another Rotary club, because you don't need to have another Rotary club there. The match for this year, 2020 and 2021 Rotary year, will be $2,000. So for club cash of $2,000, your club will receive a $2,000 match on your district grant project. We show a June 1st submission date that I should have put an asterisk here. That is the policy date that the pre-applications for district grants are due. However, this year, due to the COVID pandemic, that has been extended to July 1st to give clubs more time because we're not meeting face-to-face, to get that work done and get their district grant pre-application in. And like all Rotary grants and activities, a district grant requires active Rotarian involvement. It cannot just be a pass-through, your club giving money to another foundation or another organization and for them to do the work. Global grants, also humanitarian projects, are funded. These are graduate level scholarships that need to be in one of the 6 areas of focus. They can also fund vocational training teams. They are typically longer in length, 3 to 5 years before all of the money is spent and the project is completed. It requires 2 clubs, one an international partner and one a host partner. The host, and Rotary has to be present in the country where the project is being taken place. These are submitted year-round to the Rotary Foundation staff. They must fall within the 6 areas of focus, and there again you see we need to demonstrate active Rotarian involvement in our Rotary grant project, global grant projects. Here are the 6 areas of focus. Rotary decided, probably 10 years ago now, that we could not be all things to all people. So the trustees developed these 6 areas of focus that our global grant projects were going to execute. I remember them taking the first letter of each of them as "Please don't waste my benevolent efforts." Last year, the Foundation trustees decided, instead of adding a 7th area of focus, which would be environmental, that there are now environmental components in each of these 6 areas. And that was due to the success. A couple of years ago, the Rotary International president wanted us to plant 1 million trees, and that got everyone's attention on the environmental focus. So I believe that's where that came from with the trustees. So where does the money come from to do these district and global grants? So let's take a moment to look at that. When you and I donate to the annual fund, and there's the annual fund, the Polio Plus fund, and the endowment fund through Rotary Foundation. When we donate specifically to the annual fund, that dollar that I give is split. Half of it comes back to the district in district designated funds, meaning the district has control over how that money is spent in the grant world, and the other half of it goes to the World Fund. So let's look at the district designated fund side first. We have made, in District 5110, we've made the determination that that money would be split equally between district grants and global grants. It can also be spent on Peace Fellows, and it can also be spent on Polio Plus program. On the World Fund side, that money is used to fund global grants, Peace Fellows, and Polio Plus. By Rotary Foundation policy, at least 50% has to go to the World Fund. So we couldn't change that ratio any more than that. So let's take a look at what how the donations are leveraged. By Rotary policy, we look at the funding through the annual fund that was donated by you and I and our fellow Rotarians around the district back in Rotary year 2017 and 18, which you can see was over $500,000. Going back to the previous slide, that's split 50-50, so that means District 5110, 3 years later in Rotary year 2021, will have $273,500 in district designated funds that we can use towards district and global grants. Because our ratio is 50-50, that means funding will be over almost $137,000 to district grants and $137,000 in DDF to global grants. And remember, the clubs, because of the matching takes place, far more project value is being done. Because our time is so limited on Friday, if you do see this, and I'm asking you to email us if you have any questions or need any clarity on anything that was mentioned on the slides, because we will be limited for some Q&A time during that grant management seminar on Friday. Do want you to know that if you're not able to, for whatever reason, to attend that Friday virtual session, we do have another grant management seminar with more time available, scheduled for our quarterly grants meeting, which will be taking place in July of the new Rotary year. So thank you for joining me. I will, quote, see you on the 29th for the grant management seminar.